to some basically international news, and one of the things, Oldham, that makes this so pertinent from Hong Kong, these protesters.
Yes.
A lot of people asleep at the wheel here in America because a lot of people are busy paying their damn taxes and they don't have time to watch international news. But this is the harbinger and the warning for American citizens to get ready to protect themselves. But Hong Kong, CNN, protesters try to escape the Hong Kong University after a violent all-night clashes. Now, I thought this was old news, but like old news a day ago, but this was updated 5:37 p.m. Eastern Time today,
yes.
Monday 18th.
Yes.
A small number of protesters, this is by James Griffiths, CNN.
Yes.
A small number of protesters remain inside a Hong Kong University campus that has been the site of a prolonged battle with police. Mm-hmm. The overnight drama at Hong Kong Polytechnic University, it's Poly U they call it, in Hung Hom, in the southern tip of Kowloon Peninsula, saw some of the most violent and dramatic scenes in almost 6 months of anti-government demonstrations. We have seen some stuff around here, and we think, oh, 4 dead in Ohio, Kent State is so bad. This is like millions of people on the street.
Yeah. Yes.
And they are not, they do not have the luxury of being armed.
No, they don't. In fact, in some of because the police started to storm the university, to keep the police out, the protesters were using bricks, Molotov cocktails.
They set fire to the entrance.
They set a big bonfire to the in front of the entrance, and they were using apparently bows and arrows. They made homemade bows and arrows and things like that. So they're doing what they can to fight. But let's understand what this is about. In fact, the Hong Kong protesters often carry the American flag.
Yes.
Because they are fighting to retain a measure of liberty and freedom that the Chinese want to completely strip from them.
Yes.
Now, if you remember the story, the British occupied Hong Kong on a 99-year lease from 1898 to 1997, and they turned everything back over to the Chinese, the Communist Chinese government in 1997, per the treaty, nearly 100-year-old treaty. The Chinese proceeded to crack down a bit. It took them they started sneaking in and gradually escalating the amount of freedom that they're taking.
Let's stop there. They pledged, the Red China pledged that Hong Kong would remain autonomous.
Correct.
As a Chinese protectorate.
Yes. Yeah. And they have proceeded to renege on those agreements. So the protesters, much like our founders, have legitimate concerns because they have contractual responsibilities that are being reneged on by the Red Chinese. And it's the same thing that the King of England, he had the Magna Carta and the other subsequent documents that contracted the king to a lesser position, and then all of a sudden King George is usurping his power and demanding dictatorial rule. And we've got the same thing going on in China. So they are very much like we were, just trying to fight for what we had. And they're not trying to get something else. They're just trying to have law and order, actual law and order. And whereas the Chinese are coming in and saying, well, forget you. We're going to do what we want. Law be damned.
Okay, now the boiling point that really started this was the, I believe it was extradition to Red China. Of somebody wanted back in Red China on some crime that Hong Kong was going to deliver over anybody that Red China wanted out of Hong Kong. And the people of Hong Kong said, oh, no, you don't.
Well, because they were political crimes. And so it would be like one of us turning over somebody because they were doing something the government prohibited, but it's our right, freedom of speech, or
Right.
a rights activist or something like that. Or, a guy carrying a gun.
Yeah,
we'll talk about that in a minute.
No, this protest this weekend involved 1/4 of the population of Hong Kong, according to news reports I've heard.
Right.
That makes 1/4 of Hong Kong, well over 1 million people now,
Yes.
political criminals against Red
Oh,
China.
yes. Oh, yes.
So,
The big concern, remember, we've talked about this before. The Red Chinese are using the social contract and their eyes in the sky, all their facial recognition, real ID kind of technology
that they stole from the United States.
Well, that and was given to them.
Bill Clinton was busy that day,
Yes, he
distracted.
was. Yeah.
Anyway, what they are doing is they are actually taking information, and everybody participating in these protests could now be, have their social scores lowered, and thereby not being allowed to travel, not be able to use the public transit system, not be able to use all sorts of things that the government forces people to have to use.
Yep.
And so, and then they can then take those privileges away from you. And sound familiar?
How is it? It's interesting to me that, and I think it's beautiful in a way that I think they learned in Hong Kong that they were going to change this law that would allow China to extradite, and that's what brought them to the streets. Because the leader, forget whoever it was, is it the leader of Hong Kong or the leader of China?
I'm not well versed on.
The point is, the law was going to be changed where they could extradite, and that's what brought them into the streets.
Yeah.
That was one of several different issues.
And there was a female. I think her title may be mayor. I'm trying to remember, but yeah, she's
was it Hong Kong.
Right. Yeah.
So
Hong Kong
it's interesting to me. It must be some transparency in the law of Hong Kong that allowed the people of Hong Kong to learn that this was going to happen.
Right.
Right.
So they had a chance to come out because basically it's like, come out now and fight or you're done.
Yeah.
This is their basically last
Pretty
chance.
much, and I don't know if the law already exists, and they started protesting after it came about and learned about it, or if it was...
No, they actually protested before it was enacted, and it has been suspended up to now.
Okay.
But what I want to say in this, is to make it a little easier to understand, when you've got a college campus in America, it's like, well, how could they be in a siege? There aren't, unless it's a walled university. In Hong Kong, it is so densely populated that you have cars driving down on the ground in the streets, and that pedestrian traffic, and a lot of this is bridges and skyways, and I mean, they are just on top of each other. And so the access is very limited. Now, what was said early on, more than 24 hours ago, was the police said, anybody wants to leave, we will not attack. We will not use violence against them. So a whole bunch of people went out, and they're all moving out, and all of a sudden, tear gas and everything starts hitting. And then, like, okay.
They started getting tear gassed, arrested, beaten up.
Yeah.
So everything that they were told
was a lie.
Yes. So everything that, and I posted about this, because it's so important that we learn some lessons here about this.
From the story, and this is again from the CNN story, it says, an attempt by police to clear the area on Sunday was met with fierce resistance. So it's not like they were like, oh yeah, we're just going to leave. There was resistance to the effort to clear, but then it says around 5:30 a.m., Police continued to conduct a dispersal and arrest operation. Meanwhile, rioters gathering inside the campus set fire and caused extensive damage.
Right.
Well, remember, you're reading from a CNN article, and those guys are not reporters. There's too much
It says
editorial.
here, I'm not biased either. There you go.
Well, but what is rioters inside the campus?
Yeah, but my point is, I mean, if we can take it for the basic facts, what's being out is it wasn't like the rioters were just standing there. The cops tried to clear them.
Rioters? There's not a lot of rioting going on. That's the point.
Well, there is, but let me clarify it. On Saturday, reached a stalemate. People realized they were besieged. They were cornered. They were hemmed up. And a bunch of them wanted to leave. They were given this promise by a government that broke all these promises, leading to violence, which then led to this narrative of, oh my goodness,
right,
they are lying to us. We're in the Alamo now.
From the CNN story, of course we want, quote, of course we want to leave. A 23-year-old protester told CNN by phone from inside Poly U, we are still quite safe currently in the campus, but if we try to leave, they will arrest us. They are just everywhere surrounding the campus. Now, that's kind of what you get if you protest, right?
What?
Arrested?
Yeah.
Over there, and that's the point. Is you should not be getting arrested for protesting. You should be you could be arrested if
they're burning stuff.
Well, hang on. That came later. This is part of the problem when you have to choose your.
Trying to help you here.
Well, no, that's where you have to choose your news sources carefully, and fake news is bad stuff.
The cops can't say we attacked you on Saturday because what you were going to do on Sunday. See. The violence, the damage, the fires, all of that happened on Sunday as a result of the cops breaking their word on Saturday.
So this gets us back to the comply with the police and everything will be fine, right?
Oh, yeah.
So how do you, there's the ultimate paradox is the police chief from Manford being killed by another cop. So if those cops would have just complied with the police command, then...
Well, which one?
That's it. Oh, yeah.